Okay. Alright guys, enough with the down and dreary commentary for the past couple of podcasts. Today's video, we're going to be a little bit more upbeat, I feel. So today's topic is going to be pretty much why I think the MX5 is like the greatest car ever made, and why a couple of very well-known car reviewers think the exact same as me. And then just in principle, why I kind of like the MX5, and then why I like cars similar to the MX5. I'm sorry if there's background noise. Again, I'm sorry. I can't control other people's actions as much as I wish I could. I just anyway. Sorry. I had one hell of a morning, so my mind's gonna be all over the place. I'm sorry. I'll get into that at the end of the video. There's also sirens. So yeah. Anyway. So why do I think the MX5 is such a great car? To be honest with you, and I know this is a meme that like everybody makes fun of, but honestly, it is simply because it hasn't got that much power. And I understand like it gets memed on, and then on top of that, I've turbocharged mine since then. So, but my point being is the power to weight ratio. Well, between the power to weight ratio, admittedly more so when it's turbocharged than when it's NA. When it's NA, it's really slow, but yeah, just how peaky the engine is, like you can just keep on revving it. How nice the gears feel. I mean, it's a nice short little throw, and then it's got like a nice click in it, you know. It's like a nice mechanical short throw gearbox. It feels lovely. How I want to say sensitive everything is, like the brakes are super, like I just have to minutely touch the brakes, and you know, I've got like a good amount of braking force being put down. Same with the accelerator. I just have to minutely touch the accelerator even when it was NA, and the car would accelerate beautifully. And also like just how smooth the steering is, how I want to say stable it feels, because although technically speaking there's no rigidity on the top because no roof, I understand mine has a roof, but my meaning is when the soft top or the hard top is clipped on, this still doesn't actually add any rigidity for the chassis can still twist. But still, my meaning is just short wheelbase. It's so darty and fun to just like flick around. Don't get me wrong, it's probably useless on a lot of racetracks, especially the ones that more so rely on higher speed. But on a lot of the racetracks, I've car behind me now. I've had a good laugh on the Nürburgring before, because I was watching a stock NA Miata. Admittedly, it was a bit gutted and it had like racing seats and stuff in it, but stock engine. And he was wrecking a Ferrari 458 around the Nürburgring. Obviously the Ferrari would wreck him any straight, but like around the corners the guy can like take it flat and just go for it, and the Ferrari has to let off. And that's something that I really love and appreciate about these cars. Like just the sense of driver car connectivity, if that makes sense. It like, I don't know how to describe it past that. It just feels so good to sit in one of these and like just drive it like, just drive it like you stole it. Just put your foot down, mash it, go for it. And like if you've ever gone behind the wheel of, I suppose, any two-door mildly sporty short wheelbase okay-ish power cars, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Like the car just hunkers down and goes for it, and it just feels gorgeous to drive. So I mentioned earlier how other car reviewers feel the same. If you go look at any of the older Top Gears, with Clarkson, Hammond, and May, all of them, and also again in their magazines and stuff, the older Top Gear magazines, all of them, when they reviewed the newer MX5s, or the older, well, My Shape MX5, they all just say how fantastic a car it is to drive. No, it is not something that they probably end up featuring on their TV series, whether it be the Grand Tour or Top Gear, because let's be honest here, they're not the most exciting cars. especially around a track which they have set up for more so for like things like AMG GTRs and Ferraris and so on and so forth. It doesn't make sense for these anymore. The top speed, they'd be so slow. It doesn't make any sense. But you go talk to them about, just going through and like whipping through a canyon road, inverted commas, or a little mountain road. All of them will tell you this car is so much fun to do it. I know there was one trip that they did, the Classic 3 on Top Gear. They did a Middle Eastern special or something like that. Okay, so the end is where they go to, they follow the star, like the three wise men did, and then they find a baby stag in the stables. Yeah, I'm sure you guys know which one I'm talking about. It's that series, episode, whatever. And I think it was it Hammond or was it Jeremy? I think it was Jeremy that he had an NB. He was driving an NB, and we had, like, my dad and I were having a good laugh because obviously when we first watched it, when it first came out, we didn't know about these, and we, whatever. Now going back to it, I have a good laugh at it because I'm like, yeah, well, there we go. You chose like a well-known car. The only thing I do know with those groups is they said the thing is this is very much the generic choice. So like, I don't know. I can see it as being boring because, I mean, again, and this is statistics. It is a legitimate fact. You can go Google search it. The Mazda MX5 is the best-selling sports car. Full stop. Best-selling. I'm not sure exactly of the class, but it's like the best-selling sports car, inverted commas, because two-seater, fun sports car. It does count as a sports car, even though it's slow. And they just well renowned for it. Clearly across different media platforms, and then on top of that, just people bias as well. Rolling kind of from that thought, I mean, for interest's sake, we had a family friend that has an NA. He bought an NA Miata for his wife like ages and ages and ages and ages and ages ago. Didn't know, well, my family didn't know what the car was at the point, blah blah blah. Come pretty much like 20 years later, I ended up buying mine, and we were all having a good laugh because my uncle had an NB at the time, although he was busy selling it. I had just gotten my NA. A couple of years later, my uncle in the UK bought an NC, and my uncle who sold the NB sold it to another family member, and now he's currently got an ND. That's the ND that I actually drove on the channel for a Clarkson parody review. So my family literally has every single generation of MX5. And I find that very funny because they're good cars, and I mean, you can clearly see throughout different things that they are good cars. And yeah, my words are very mumble jumble. I'm very sorry. Okay, but moving on, what besides the fact that just the MX5 is a good car, like kind of what makes it good, like, but now more in depth because I did mention it a little bit earlier. I think one of the major influences that really make people bias towards these is the fact that it's still reliable. I mean, it's a Mazda at the end of the day, and I know the 1.6 that's in my car came in the Mazda 323. Admittedly, this is a very modified version of that, so it's not really the same engine. The NB's 1.8, I'm going to be honest with you, I have no idea what else that comes in. But I know the 2-liter engine that comes in the NC and the ND is pretty much the generic 2-liter engine that comes in most Mazdas. It's the Mazda 3, Mazda 6. A lot of the Mazdas that come with that generic 2-liter engine, it's the same 2-liter engine. And I think that's what draws in a lot of people, because you can own a two-door sports car but without having to pay the sports car tax on like fixing the engine and stuff. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Obviously, I've never taken mine to Mazda to go get repaired, but I'm pretty sure that they'll up the amount, even though it's just like generic engine parts, because it is a two-door sports car. But my meaning is, in later generations, when people are buying these as tuner cars and starting to play with them and stuff, it's a generic engine that's like everywhere with generic parts that's everywhere. And I think that's what really sells it, especially over things like the BMW Z4, and I'm trying to think of other things. There's the Abarth that's based on the ND chassis, and I think has actually got the same engine as the ND, but it's like tuned or something. I don't know. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't look much into that car. It does look very pretty though, but anyway. But you go ask people. I know when that Abarth came out, how the reviewers raved about it. They went ham about it. They loved it. Why? Because it's an ND Miata. Everything is a Miata. If you think about it hard enough, everything is a Miata. Just slightly less Miata or slightly more Miata. It's all a Miata. Anyway. I think, so the engine definitely helps in that regard, that it's a reliable engine, but then also still like a fun engine, if that makes sense. Leaves, can we please stop hitting my car? Thank you. I think it's also just the fact that it's like a comfy daily driver in the same breath. Like, these seats are actually very comfortable. Okay, it depends on how you have them set up. I mean, if you're sitting super back, then yeah, sure, you might have lumbar issues. Lumbar? However you say it. Issues. But, you know, it's like a comfortable car to drive. Especially stock, like the clutch is still easy. You don't have to stress about it. It's so easy to drive. When I drove my uncle's ND, I was actually blown away at how nice that car was to drive. In terms of, you know, when you put your foot down and you're clicking through gears, it's got a nice mechanical caca, you know, between gears. It's got a shorter throw than mine, by the way. It felt gorgeous to drive. But, you know, just casually driving around when I was doing a lot of the reviewing pieces, I was blown away. It has an electronic power steering, or at least that's how it kind of felt, which kind of takes away a little bit of the fun for me, but it still felt super light, it still felt very responsive, and it still felt like I got a lot of the road feel through it still. I don't know, it was such a fantastic car to drive. So I think between the suspension being sportsy but forgiving, the engine being, again, sportsy but reliable, and then all in all, the car being not the most practical thing on earth, but you can probably daily drive it as a young guy by yourself. I mean, my laptop fits in the boot. I can drive to work. It's reasonably fuel efficient for a sports car, let's be honest here. They're modifiable if you want to go down that route. Like, they're really easy to modify. They're fun to play with stock if you don't want to do anything. It seems like again, positive over positive over positive. Don't get me wrong, if I had to grade it in particular aspects, I would probably end up looking at it and saying, you know, it's getting C's or B's throughout the scoring system, but and not like A's for everything. But if you get A's in one place, then you're going to get an F in another. Whilst if you get like C's across the board, you're probably going to get C's across the board, if that makes sense. If my very brief reviewing there makes sense. My meaning is, basically, if you had to make a triangle, if you go too far one way, then the other two are not going to meet up. That goes for any of the 3 points. So you kind of want something pretty much precisely in the middle. I feel like Mazda's pretty much hit that on the head. Maybe a little bit more to the sports car side of things, but otherwise pretty much hit it on the head. In terms of other choices besides the MX5, which again I briefly tapped on earlier, there's like the Fiat, there's the BMW Z4. I was actually mentioning, I think the BMW M2 kind of fits into the same niche, because it's also short wheelbase, relative to other BMWs, not that much horsepower, but I mean, it's still way too much horsepower if you ask my opinion. But I like the short wheelbase cars. I don't know why. I feel like I don't know, I like them a lot. A thing that I have actually briefly mentioned before is the fact that sometimes Lotus actually kind of looks like a mid-engined version of one of these. And I still kind of hold to that. Same with the, what's it called? James May owns one. It's the A110 or something like that, but I can't remember the first name now. Oh gosh, what's it called? You guys know which one I'm talking about? The blue car that they recently made. That's also, it's got styling based on older things. Its name starts with an A, but I cannot remember it. I want to say in a bath, but I know it's not in a bath. Anyway, whatever. My point being, there it goes. Bye. My phone fell off where I have it hooked up to my windscreen. Sorry. Anyway, I can't remember what that car's called, but I know James May was actually talking about it in one of the Drive Tribe videos. He was saying it does genuinely just, it's a low horsepower car. It's fuel efficient. I mean, it's got a 1.8 liter engine, I believe, or something like that. But it's mid-engined, it's fun, it's sporty, it's nice to flick around and just go for. And he was saying it's such a nice little car to drive. And that's my same thing with, okay, maybe not the modern Lotuses, because I think they've got V6s, but I know some of the older Lotuses have little Toyota inline fours, you know, little four bangers from Toyota, but they've just tweaked the engines up a little bit or supercharged them or whatever, and then they become so fun to play with. And I think that's where a lot of manufacturers look past that these days, and that's where I feel like a lot of car companies are falling short, especially with the electric car movement, because with electric cars it's very easy to now make big horsepower numbers. But to be honest with you, big horsepower numbers means nothing. Handling and good fun and driver response, and again, like what I mentioned, driver connectivity, you feel very in one and in touch with your car. That I feel is something that car manufacturers have lost recently, and that I don't know, just MX5s in general, they still hit that on the mark every single time. I obviously can't comment on 350Zs or 370Zs or the 400Z or the Mark 5 Supra. Helicopter. Because I know that those are also reasonably short wheelbase, obviously not as short as like this, but they're reasonably short wheelbase. And I don't know, how do I want to explain what I was trying to say there? I know that they're very short wheelbase, so but I don't know if they're as short as this, so I can't really comment on how twitchy and fun they are to drive, like how darty. I have been in a Mark 5 Supra before. I went for a ride with a mate that had one, and I have to admit it drove beautifully and so on and so forth. So I'd need to personally drive it to actually be able to say though. But in my opinion, my meaning is more so the smaller engines that don't make much horsepower, so they're still fuel efficient, but they're still like peaky and fun. One of the biggest things for me when I got this car was how much fun I could have just driving around, and I'm still like under the speed limit. Like, you can just mash your foot to the floor for first gear and like at least half, if not 3/4 of a second, and you're still completely under the speed limit. Like, it means nothing. And like, that's I don't know how to describe it, but there's a sense of fun that comes from that. The fact that the car is like screaming, you're having all the sensation of going fast, but you're not going fast yet. And I think that's really where these cars start to glide above the rest. yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of other alternatives besides like the Mazda MX5. But there's, definitely in the current standings. Because I was going to say, back in the day, sorry, this is a little bit funky. Let's try and make it a little bit more. Yep, there we go. Back in the day, Toyota had the MR2. I suppose they've got the GT and GR86 now. That's actually not half bad shouts as either. Like those are pretty damn fun cars as well. Okay, lady's coming to talk right next to my car. Okay, let's try this again. Again, in terms of alternatives, there's the GD86 slash GR86, I suppose I should start saying, because that's the new car on the block. I feel like that also hits the niche correctly. Nice small engine, but torquey, well not torquey, but like peaky, can rev it nice and high, can put your foot down. They're not too fast, but you can do a couple of mods and then they're like they're good. They're in the 200 to 300 horsepower range, which is where I'd say these cars really excel at. And yeah, I don't know, just I think they're absolutely brilliant. Okay. I think they're absolutely little brilliant cars to like, again, also like flick around and just drive. But back in the day, Toyota had the MR2. Honda, I suppose, has never really had a rear-wheel drive variant besides the NSX, but that's like proper sports car level stuff. But if we look at things, I suppose even like the Acura Integras and stuff like that, those are definitely in the same shout, in the same realm as these, just their front wheel drive. Honda Prelude. I don't know, we're going very weird side route now of talking of similar cars, but I think personally any car that is the short wheelbase, mid amounts of power, high-low amounts of power, there we go. Like if we look at the scale, if we had to section it in 3, low, mid, and high, if we look at low, mid, or high-low amounts of power, I think that's where these cars properly like fit in, and they just feel great to drive. And yeah. Any other reasons why I think they're such good cars? I think they're very good cars to like learn how to drive in, race in. Maybe not like the best first cars. I personally think this being a first car is a really good idea because, well, if you're a car guy, obviously if you're not a car guy, don't bother with it. But if you're a car guy, you want to get into cars, you want to get into modifying cars, I do think that these are good shouts because relatively speaking, they're cheap. Relatively speaking, they're easy to maintain and fix up and stuff because a lot of cars use the same parts as them. Again, depending, I mean, I had issues with my brake calipers, and then to be honest, I did struggle to get gaskets, but that's more so because any car with that's like 31 years old, you're going to struggle with getting parts for, so yeah. But my meaning is just they're because of how responsive and easy to pick up on. How do I describe it? Okay, so to put you into a scenario, I was once driving back from school when I had recently gotten my car. I can't remember how long I had it, but not for too long. I think it was probably under a year at this point. I was driving back from school and a truck decided to just cut me off. He pulled out in front of me to the point that I actually had to hit brakes and I locked up my front left wheel. Now, because no ABS, I should mind you, in the earlier models anyway. Now, I wasn't worried about the fact that it hasn't got ABS or airbags or anything like that because of the fact of just how easy the car is to drive. Like, in that scenario, yes, I hit brakes, and I'm a newish driver, so I hit brakes probably a lot harder than I actually had to. But the fact is, I felt it starting to dig in on that wheel. Immediately, I let off, and the car just responds exactly how I want, and then I can start slowly braking in again. And I want to say it almost came to me instinctually, but I want to say it wasn't on me. It was actually on the car portraying that to me. I don't know. It's so difficult for me to explain, but like the car just gives you, I want to say, like a gut response on how to react, and it genuinely does make you react that way. You know, like, I don't know, in my car anyway, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm speaking a whole bunch of rubbish, but maybe there's someone out there that can relate to me. Please let me know if you can relate to me, so I know I'm not insane. But like, I can feel when my car's like, oh, you know, my gearbox is a bit warm, won't you just like rev match it a little bit for me so that I can shift gears nicely? And then I will, and then my car shifts nicely. Or again, like the brakes, I can feel, I know exactly how hard I need to brake coming up for a speed bump or something like that, to the point that the car's smoothed, and I'm not like having to brake and then let off and so on and so forth. It's a nice smooth gradual sway rather than a rocking. I don't know how to describe what I'm trying to say, but like the car just speaks to you in a way. Or at least, again, that's what I felt in both MX5s that I've driven, the NA and the ND. And then I have driven my mom's BMW 323, and I can note that didn't give me that. Like, I had a lot of understanding of what was going on throughout the car, like the power steering and the just like everything. I did have a big understanding of, oh, okay, this is how to do it. But the car, I want to say, didn't necessarily speak to me, or at least not as loudly as like my car does. I don't know if my words are making sense. This, or maybe the end of this video is me just going absolutely batshit insane, and everyone's watching like, what is this man on about? I don't know. I feel like, especially if you pick up your dream car, like there's just another level of connection between yourself and the car, and I definitely feel that in MX5s. I don't know if anybody else can heavily relate to me in this kind of regard of the car, like properly like just connecting with you, and you can, you know, exactly what the car kind of wants all the time. But yeah, anything else that I wanted to talk about? I'll quickly hit the previous topic again of just feeling out the car. When I'm at autocross and stuff, that's where I can really feel it, because like you're probably diving into corners and stuff, and you can just feel what the car wants to do. And I mean, to be honest with you, that's another reason kind of why I went turboed, because I could feel, especially after I put the limited slip diff in, I could feel the car wanted to, like going around the circle, the car wanted to step out, and like it wanted me to hold like a little bit of a drift, especially towards the exit, because that's, I want to say, how the car felt. But it wasn't there. The car didn't have enough oomph to do it. And I remember the first one that I did with the turbo kit, not that I've done another one, sorry, but when I did that one with the turbo kit afterwards, the car just felt so happy to do that. Like I could have it just on the edge of trying to step out and then not at the same time. Like it's just kicking the bum out. I'm on that finite edge of kicking the bum out, but not necessarily drifting yet, if that makes sense. Also, I just completely remembered the Honda S2000. I was busy talking about, has Honda made any rear-wheel drive sports cars? Oh my gosh. How did I forget about the S2000? Anyway, moving on. So yeah, just, I don't know, I feel like these cars, they're easy to pick up on and learn how to do the racing car style of driving, where you can learn how to push a car to its limits and how to get it there and how to get it there stably and fun. And you learn that, and then you can apply that to other cars. Sorry. You can then apply that to other cars. But I want to say, if you had to learn in some other cars, they might be too twitchy or too aggressive or something like that. I've heard a lot of that for the BMs, for example. The BMs tend to be, when you climb in a BM, or like the Mercedes SLKs as well, they tend to be really twitchy and aggressive because they've got too much horsepower. Or maybe it's not horsepower driven, maybe it is something else, but I'm assuming it's probably horsepower related, because I feel like the throttle is probably very sensitive on those cars, but then it's probably as sensitive as this throttle, but it's got more power, so then it starts to just light up and stuff. I'm assuming it's kind of what my car feels like now with the turbo kit on high boost, but I've obviously learned how my car will react on low boost, so now I'm completely fine with it, irrelevant of how much horsepower it's got. Well, maybe not 1,000, but I mean max horsepower that my car currently has. Anyway, I think this video's gone on for long enough. Something I mentioned at the beginning of the video is just I had a bit of a morning, so I thought I'd mention it to you guys, and you guys can just keep it in mind and just remind yourselves to drive safe and stuff, because on my way to work today there was a very bad accident. It looks like a truck drove into the back of another truck, and then it skidded sideways across the highway, clapped a couple of other cars, and blah blah blah. I wasn't involved in that whatsoever, but it did happen like a couple of minutes ahead of me. So in front of me, obviously everyone started to brake really hard. Now I keep a 3 white line following distance from the person in front of me, basically like a 2 car length, if not 2.5, and I put my brakes down firmly. I didn't like hammer the brakes or anything, because I wasn't too close to the guy in front of me, but I did have to put my brakes rather firmly. It didn't lock up or anything, very thankful for that, because it is a bit scary when my car locks up. But the guy behind me wasn't paying attention, and he was just clocking it up behind me, and then noticed me almost now from 120. I had probably started to be like 50 at this point. Maybe not, maybe I was about 70 or so, but anyway. He locked up, and there was just a cloud of tire smoke behind me, and he was climbing into the back of me, to the point that I actually let go of brakes to try get closer to the person in front of me and dive into the emergency lane in the fast lane, if that makes sense. So that the guy behind me had space to kind of go. He was, I swear, like centimeters away from my rear bumper. And it was simply just because he wasn't paying attention. And then on top of that, beforehand, he wasn't actually keeping following distance whatsoever. Like, he was on top of me. I was actually getting a bit irritated, but I was waiting for the car in front of me to move out of my way, and then I was going to drop a gear and disappear. Kind of one of the benefits of having a nice sports car. But I was very shaken up after that, because, as you can imagine, a very young guy with a little sports car, I can't really afford to fix this. And on top of that, my insurance has said if like someone sneezes too hard in my car, they write it off, because you can't get body parts for this. You can get carbon fiber replacements, that's pretty much it. Which I have been considering, but I haven't got the money for. But my point being is just, I just wanted to put that out there, remind all of you guys to please drive safe, please keep your following distances, for the love of shit, please. I get so irritated all of the time because people just don't keep their following distances. I don't care if you're in stop-start traffic, please just leave a gap, because you don't know if the person in front of you is a new driver and is struggling to use their handbrake, and they're going to roll, so they'd feel a bit more comfortable if they had a bigger gap. Or you don't know if they're going to stall out. You don't know. So just leave a little bit of a gap, please, especially for my older audience, because I know once you guys get on and you've been on the roads for like a couple of years now, and you're very confident and stuff on the roads, you forget that us younger drivers are still new on the road. We're still very nervous, and then especially us in our sports cars, we get very panicked when people are up close and personal with us. Just it does bring on a bit of fear, because you know if something happens, it's done for. Your car's toast. So yeah, I just wanted to bring up, okay, somebody posted a TikTok and my TikTok was like, go watch it now. Sorry. So please, just a reminder to drive safe, drive paying attention, not on your phones. And yeah, until next time, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. This one I tried to make very positive and brave about Miatas, because I obviously love Miatas. Someone has actually told me to change my name to Miatas, which I have considered. Anyway, moving on. Until next time, guys, I hope you did enjoy. If you have any suggestions for topics that you'd like me to speak about in a following video, let me know. Ooh, actually, wait, hold on, sorry. I did want to bring this up, because I feel like the guys who are watching my podcast in cars, especially if you've gotten to this point in the video at the very end, you're probably one of my more dedicated viewers, and I've been wanting opinions on this, and I'm going to post a poll on Instagram asking this, and I'm probably going to mention on Friday's video as well. I've been considering starting a Patreon account. Now, I have concerns with this, but I also... Okay, this is the story. Basically, YouTube is becoming more and more restrictive on the kinds of content, firstly, that you can upload, and then also that you can actually earn money from it. I mean, at this point, most of the bigger YouTubers that you guys are probably watching who are actually earning money off YouTube are earning probably a couple of thousand, like a minuscule amount, but majority of their money actually comes from them firstly being smart with their money, and then secondly, merch. They do merch drops, t-shirts, blah blah blah, of which I have tried to do. But yeah, so I wanted to do a Patreon, not actually for the YouTube side of things. I mean, if you guys enjoy my videos and you have a couple extra to just say, here we go, then cool. And I did want to, okay, wait, I'll come back to that, sorry. But the majority of why I wanted to start it was actually more so for the Norex mod sides of things. So I've had a lot of people ask me, can I please design a turbo kit locally for the Miatas, the NA Miatas, of which I'm more than happy to, because my turbo kit, a lot of people have raved about my turbo kit. They really like how it's set up and stuff. So I've been wanting to do the same thing, but I need obviously capital to land up doing that. I've had a lot of people ask me to develop a headlight kit for the S chassis, the S13s. I would love to, but I need the capital to do that in the first place. Basically, I'm lacking capital, and I feel like having a Patreon might be a nice way for people to, if they want a mod done for their car, they can kind of sponsor my work and leave remarks and stuff on cars that I should look at doing next. And then, I mean, I can work into it a little bit more in depth, but I could do things like, if you pay a certain amount towards the headlight kit for the S13, then, you know, it moves up on my list of that's the next mod that I'll work on getting done for you, because you've obviously paid a bit now to bump it up in the order, or something like that. Obviously this is all up for debate, but that's, I just wanted your guys' opinion, because I'm also nervous that I start a Patreon. I'm still a terribly small YouTuber, and not many people know me for the modding side of stuff anyway. And I'm just worried that it comes off almost cocky, like I'm just asking for money now. And I'm really not. I'm a young kid trying to make his business work. And I'm more than happy to put my own money into it when I have the time to. But my business could grow a lot faster and a lot quicker if people were happy to, like, add in. I don't know how to word myself nicely. And then I thought on the YouTube side of things, I could also have it that, like, my Patreons would get a video a week early, and then they would still be uploaded to YouTube. But if you want to support my channel, then you get early access to my videos. and maybe early access to drops and other products and stuff, or maybe you just get a permanent discount kind of setup. I don't know. Obviously, there's a lot of in-depth stuff that I would still have to research in that regard, but I thought I'd bring it up because, again, if you've gotten to this point in the video, you'll probably have good advice for me. So please leave it down in the comments below, or my Instagram is also linked below. You guys can send me a DM there on your thoughts if you don't want it out publicly. I am very nervous of sharing this because, again, I really don't want to come off that I'm trying to just be like money grab. Okay, let me get money so I can do cool shit for you. I'd rather invest my own money on the YouTube side of things, but on the business side of things, I'm more than happy to invest my own money in it. But to get stuff, like cool stuff, done quicker and sooner for you guys, so that you guys can start putting it for your cars and so on and so forth. Yeah, I suppose that's where I need the help. So yeah, that's going to be the end. I hope you guys enjoyed, and until next time, cheers. Please let me know down in the comments. Thank you.